This is a two-part video on horizontal directional drilling operations and safety. The first part presents horizontal directional drilling operation and safety, while the second part presents safe operation of directional boring tracking equipment. In addition to the two parts of this video, there is a guidebook containing information and exercises that reinforce the concepts presented. This video is for demonstration of selected portions of safe operating practices. Consult your operator's manual for additional instructions and safety messages that apply to your equipment.
Horizontal directional boring techniques are growing in popularity because they are a cost-effective and environmentally friendly option for utility contractors. And while boring operations are becoming a familiar sight in industrial and residential areas, it is important to remember that these operations are far from routine. Each job is different and must be approached with safety as a primary consideration. Working safety is important not only to the crew, but also to their families, as well as the general public. This video, however, is not the only source for such information. The manufacturer's operator's manual is the primary source for information on your particular equipment. Key factors in the safe, successful completion of a project are training, planning, and preparation. Your personal preparation begins with a positive attitude. You are responsible for safely and accurately guiding the bore, and you must be well rested and alert. Refer to the manufacturer's manual for specific guidelines on personal preparation, but here are some general recommendations. First, remove loose-fitting clothing and jewelry. Tie back long hair. You must wear properly rated electrically insulating footwear at all times during the bore. A hard hat is recommended. You must wear eye protection when observing the drill head passing through or exiting exposures. Wearing a high-visibility vest is recommended when working in traffic areas. And of course, you should be professionally trained in boring techniques and in the use of the tracking device you are operating. Site preparation involves the participation and coordination of several persons and agencies. First, confirm with the boring contractor that one call has been contacted. Confirm that utilities that do not subscribe to one call have been contacted, and confirm that the site has been accurately marked. It is recommended that all information pertaining to the locate request be retained for future reference, including the one call confirmation code or ticket number, and locate sketch if supplied by the facility owner. It is a good practice to take a copy of the sketch to the job site to confirm the locates. Some localities require the sketch and ticket number on the job site. Next, mark the bore path. Confirm the locations of all existing utilities and make every effort to stay clear of them. Before boring, all utilities must be exposed wherever the planned bore path will cross them. Use methods that will not damage the utility being exposed, such as using hand tools or vacuum excavation around fiber optic cables. Exposures must be at least to the proposed depth of the bore and must fully expose the utility line. Look for visible signs of facilities that may have been overlooked, such as pedestals, pole risers, trench lines, manhole covers, or sewer drain outlets. Note any inconsistencies with line locations and resolve them. If the locates are inaccurate, do not bore until all utilities in the proposed bore path have been located and exposed. Boring parallel to buried lines and cables requires detailed knowledge of the installation and close coordination with the utility owner. Gas lines may have T's, valves, and other connections, which may extend well beyond the marked location of the pipe's path. Power cables may have been installed with numerous curves and turns, and may also contain loops of excess cable where splicing has occurred. Boring parallel to a buried utility may therefore require frequent exposure of the utility and the drill head to verify the necessary clearance between the utility and the bore path. Also, if the actual bore path changes from the planned bore path during the bore, expose all utilities along the new path. Never assume that the depth and direction of utilities remain constant. Follow the recommendations to not smoke in the vicinity of a gas line or an exit or exposure pit if gas lines are present. Finally, make certain you are in compliance with all OSHA, state, and local regulations, including regulations regarding open excavations or potholes. This may include requirements for covers, fencing, barrier tape marking, barricades, shoring and sloping of trenches, confined space permits, and other items. It is essential that the tracking operator and the drill operator develop an understanding of the job before boring begins. Walk the planned bore path with the drill operator to check for potential sources of electromagnetic interference. Here's why. All bore tracking devices currently use electromagnetic fields to detect and track the drill head. These fields are subject to disturbances or interference from various sources. When interference is encountered, tracking receivers may give information that is not correct, including depth information. You must be aware of the surroundings, the normal functioning of the tracking instrument, and deviations from normal information. For example, a roll position that jumps when the drill head is still, or pitch information that is not consistent with depth readings could indicate a problem. You must not rely solely on electronic display readings or boring information. Rather, rely on common sense and factor in drill pipe length, pitch, ground conditions, and thrust pressure to assure that interference is not affecting depth readings. To check for potential sources of interference, walk the planned bore path with the tracking receiver on, but with the transmitter in the off position. As you walk, look for signal strength changes or any other unusual indications or readings, and mark these locations. There are several potential sources of interference. Active sources include traffic sensing loops and traffic signal pads, electronic dog fences, buried utility lines with cables or trace lines that transmit high-frequency signals, other transmitters that are at or near the same frequency as the tracking equipment. This could include radio and television transmitters and other tracking devices, cathodic protection currents, existing utilities, microwave or radar transmission facilities, electrical storms, and locating equipment being used in the same vicinity. Passive sources of interference include metal structures that are underground or in close proximity to the receiver, such as towers and vehicles, reinforced concrete roadways, sidewalks, and driveways, steel or cast iron pipes, and proximity to salt water. If signal strength changes are noted during the walkthrough, it may indicate potential interference. Use the following procedure to determine if electromagnetic interference will affect the readings of the tracking receiver. Where interferences were detected, position the receiver over the planned bore path. Position the transmitter off to the side at a distance of 1.5 times the planned bore depth at that point, not to exceed the maximum range of the transmitter. Check depth accuracy and other communications, such as pitch, roll, battery life, and temperature. In the event of inconsistent or inaccurate readings, contact the equipment supplier or manufacturer for recommendations. To properly identify and adjust for job site interference, you must be able to recognize unstable or potentially inaccurate information. You must also know the limitations of the tracking equipment. As you walk the bore path, also note the actions that will be necessary to maintain the planned bore path. Be sure to consider back ream size, as well as product size, bend radius, and drift. This is a good time to verify that all required exposures have been completed. It is also a good time to establish effective two-way communication with the drill operator. Radios are used most often. Radio protocol must be agreed upon, including confirmation of all messages received. If visual signals are to be used, they also must be agreed upon, and each sent message must be acknowledged. Effective communication is vital. You must maintain close communication with the drill operator. Remember, as the tracking operator, you are guiding the bore. Before the bore begins, anticipate the actions you will need to take to avoid obstacles noted during the walkthrough. Give yourself adequate time to perform these actions, again making certain to allow adequate distance for the back reamer to clear obstacles. Frequently cross-check both depth and pitch information with the previous readings, and be alert for inconsistent readings. If you encounter an inconsistent or unexpected reading, stop the bore. Cross-check all information sources. If the readings are still suspect, pull back to the previous known bore position and verify that the tracking equipment is working properly. You must identify the problem and take corrective action before continuing the bore. When crossing exposures, verify the proximity to the utility by observing the drill head passing through the exposure. Wear eye protection and avoid being sprayed by drilling fluids. You may also want to have the drill operator reduce the drilling fluid pressure as the drill head begins to enter the exposure. This is also a good time to verify depth readings. Be sure to allow adequate clearance to account for the size of the back reamer and the flex of the drill pipe. Utilities should remain exposed on the back ream to verify changes in the position, either vertically or horizontally, of the reamer. Also, stand clear of exit points and the rotating drill components, once again to avoid being entangled or sprayed by drilling fluids. If the drill head or back reamer strikes a utility, it is important to know what emergency procedures must be taken. In the event of an electrical strike, stay where you are and don't move, since the ground may be charged. Do not touch the machine, drill pipe, water system, mud mixing system, or anything connected to the drill, because they may be highly charged and you may be electrocuted. Warn bystanders that a strike has occurred and to stay away. Remind the drill operator to reverse bore direction and attempt to break contact. Have someone call 911 or other local emergency number and contact the electric utility. The drill operator should follow the manufacturer's procedures to determine if the drill is electrically charged. But be aware that some power line circuit breakers can reset automatically and re-energize the line. Do not resume boring until you have been cleared to do so by the electric utility. If a gas line strike occurs, leave the area of the leak immediately. Inform the drill operator of the strike and remind him to shut down all engines. Also remind him that the drill string should not be reversed or retracted to break contact with the gas line, since any further movement could cause a spark that may ignite any leaking gas. Now you must evacuate and secure the area. And then call 911 or other local emergency number and contact the appropriate utility. Do not smoke or do anything that may cause a spark. Finally, do not resume boring until you have been cleared to do so by the appropriate utility. In the case of a fiber optic strike, do not look into the cut ends of the cable. Contact 911 or other local emergency number, as well as the appropriate utility. For a water or sewage strike, do not reverse the bore. Be aware that sewage may contain pathogens, so you may want to seek medical attention if you come into contact with it. Again, contact 911 or other local emergency number, as well as the appropriate utility. As stated earlier, this video is only one part of a comprehensive training program. Always look to the manufacturer's operator's manual for the most complete information on your equipment. Following safe procedures is important for you, your loved ones, and the public in general. Remember, there are no routine jobs, so take the time to ensure that each job is given the respect it deserves. Prepare thoroughly and work as a team. That's the formula for the safe completion of all boring operations.